Welcome to the Real Estate and Wealth Podcast, your go-to resource for navigating the world of real estate investing and wealth creation. This podcast is brought to you by Calvert Home Mortgage Investment Corporation, your trusted, caring, and responsive short-term mortgage lender in Alberta and Ontario. We explore strategic and tactical solutions to elevate your real estate portfolio, drawing insights from seasoned Canadian investors and trusted advisors. In each episode, we dive into various aspects of real estate investing, including market trends, property analysis, financing strategies, risk management, and much more. Whether you're a seasoned real estate investor looking to expand your portfolio or a beginner taking those first steps, this podcast is for you. So today on the pod, we have Shaun Thiessen. Super excited for today's interview. I know you have quite a unique story, but I'll let you introduce yourself just to ensure that I don't miss anything. And just tell us about yourself and what you have on the go.
I'm Shaun Thiessen. I'm an investor here in Calgary. Just kind of do my thing. I buy rentals, I do flips, I do new builds. Kind of been all over the board, so
yeah,
kind of went from there. Started young.
Perfect.
So yeah, my old man, essentially, I kind of started with that. He built 100 custom homes over his time period.
Yeah.
So I started young, about 12. I'd go to sites, work with him in the summers and stuff like that, right? And that's kind of where I got going a little bit, just kind of learning it. And then, essentially just kind of got into it on my own and started doing flips, my own builds, and learned lots of lessons. And
awesome.
It's been good. It's been a good little journey so far.
Nice. So were your influence, I guess, by your father then? Did you see kind of on a day-to-day basis, like the whole process of the construction side of things?
Yeah. So I just kind of watched it from a young age, right? Like he just would go do his thing. And like I said, I'd just go to sites and I'd watch, and he'd get me to drive his truck and go clean up garbage, and like do the little things, but I always got to see him like talk on the phone and do his thing, right? So it's slowly, so I was always able to like kind of connect on him and get him to help me out with start to, which was good, right? But
perfect. So you have a trades background then.
I got a trades background, yeah.
And did that have an influence on you purchasing properties, on knowing what to look for, like budgeting out?
It was different because he was always working for a customer, right? Where my world was more, I had to do a lot of homework first. I studied for 2 years essentially because I ran an excavator for about 20 years in there. Yeah. So like I worked with my dad when I was young, but then I got into the trades, and he's like, "What do you want to do?" I'm like, "I want to run machines." Right? What boy doesn't want to run machines? So so he got me on. He lined me up with his guys, and I learned that, and I did that for 20 years, and then I kind of just started digging and listening to podcasts and reading a lot and trying to get information and finding out what a wholesaler is, finding out what an NOI is, like doing all that stuff, right? So and then after just a couple of years of doing that, I just kind of decided to pull a trigger and started with an infill. I don't know if that was the best thing to start with, but that's what I did. It was, so I bought a piece of land, essentially paid way too much for it, right? Overbought it. I panic bought because I didn't know. And
what year was this?
That would have been, I want to say 2014.
Okay, so almost like at the peak-ish.
Yeah, it was right after the peak. It was
Calgary.
right after the peak, so that's why it was hard to buy lots.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I panic bought, spent way too much on the land. Tried my first build, which was great. It was really good. It was a triple lot, so I was able to build the house was on one side of the lot, and I was able to build a single on the other side. So rented out one, built one. I lost $25,000 on that job.
And what made you decide wanting to do a development versus a flip, buy and hold? Like, what was
that's what I knew, right? My old man built new homes. That's what I knew. That's what he knew. So I started with that. He didn't help me at all. He's like, "Go try." Obviously, I called and asked. Be like, "Dad, what do I do here?" Right? But I lost.
Did you do most of the work yourself?
No, well, I hired out trades and stuff. Like I got in there. There's always stuff that there's not a trade for, so you got to get in there and do a little bit of backing.
And did you know a lot of the trades going in, like that you were going to use, or did you find them as you went? And was that a struggle?
As I went, like I knew some from my excavation world. Like I obviously knew concrete guys on my dirt work stuff, and I knew framers because they were always right after us complaining about our work or whatever. You know what I mean? So I knew some, but then I had to try to find some more. Which you try to do your 3 quotes. But I was a young guy, right? So I definitely got to take advantage of a little bit. right? You do your best, but yeah, it was kind of, I took it as my college. Instead of going to college, I did this infill, lost some money, but I didn't give up. Tried another one. So a year later, after I sold that, then I ripped down that house and I built another one. And then that one I was able to make a little bit of. Nice. So it was good. It was kind of where it started.
Yeah. Did you stop at 2, like infills?
I stopped at 3. So I stopped at 3. We did okay after that. And then I kind of went to flips because the margins just weren't. I'm like, I'm putting years worth of time into this and I'm going to make like 35K or something like that, right?
Yeah.
It wasn't. I was like, I wonder if there's better margins out there. So yeah.
So how long was it taking you to build these? Because like 35 grand, obviously.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it was a year.
Yeah.
That was a year a piece, right? So it was 1 year building, lost 25K, and then I built another one. I think I made 35 aside. So it was like 70K over a year, which wasn't horrible. I was still working full time while I was doing this though too.
Right.
So I was still running excavation. I was doing all this stuff in my evenings and weekends and all that stuff. So that's kind of how I got going. Yeah. And then I was able to, and then from there, I just kind of was looking into flips and kind of realized that rentals are kind of where it's at. That's where your return is. I was trying to look for, buy my time back.
Yeah.
So essentially, so I started looking into flips and rentals and all that and started pulling triggers on those.
Nice. And so did you just obviously from your day job save up capital for down payments? Yeah, all the capital that way, and that's how you got the down payment to fund these, or
a little bit. Essentially, like I tried that first one. I had some equity in my house, so I took some of that out. I also started getting into private funding, so just started asking family and friends. Obviously, was what I started about with. I'm like, hey, you guys, this is what banks are paying. I'm happy to pay you this too if you'll give me a chance, right? You just have to sell, and they kind of seen how motivated I am, and like. Whatever. So they're like, yeah, we'll give you a shot. And I tried one and, everyone was happy. Everyone got a good return. I didn't make much, but everyone else did. Everyone else made money, but that's all that matters, right? You make them win. Yeah. You win after. Yeah. Right. And once you can figure that out, then it's essentially, And we went from there and I just kept on trying. And the more of that I did, the more investors actually started finding me. So it's amazing because also they start talking to their friends and Shaun's doing this, Shaun's doing that, like look, here's his little portfolio, and then all of a sudden they started approaching me. So
nice. So when did you start? When was your first flip?
When was my first flip? 4 years ago, 5 years ago.
Okay, pretty recent.
Yeah, it hasn't been that long. I've been full time at this 4 years.
Okay,
full time. When I kind of was able to get away because I did half and half, like work full time and then do flips, like just to keep cash flow going, keep the risk kind of mitigated, right? So
nice. And so you'd be doing the work yourself on those flips, or you'd hire most of it out?
No, I was doing a lot
while working full time.
While I was working full time, so I was putting in a lot of hours. I have a wonderful wife that's
that's nice.
Do this, be like, Shaun, you can stay on whatever, supper, right? So no, she's been really supportive and good all the way through this, right? And now she has a huge part of it herself, right? Like But so it's kind of just gone from there. I did do a lot of the work myself at the start, and then as I wanted to grow it, then I would hire a little bit more out, and then I kind of hired one full-time guy. Yeah. So he was a full-time finisher, so he could do kitchens and floorings and base and case, like I get in there and do framing, and then we would hire out the mechanical for all the permit stuff, right? And so we'd do that, and it's kind of slowly grown. I've just kept on hiring guys, and now I got a bunch of full-time guys underneath me. And
nice. That's one of the most challenging things. I know a lot of people reach out to us asking, hey, do you have contacts for contractors? Yeah. And the first thing I tell them is, our flippers don't want to give you their contacts because those are so challenging to find, and ones that you can trust. Yeah. It's the most challenging thing. So how did you find those people that you trusted and you could hire and use full time?
It's a lot of word of mouth, and it's a lot of trial and error. Yeah. Honestly, like it's word of mouth, like my one guy would be like, oh, I have a really good electrician. You want to try him out? Yeah, sure. I need a good guy. Try him out for one job. Garbage. Gone. Right. Yeah. You just take your hit. Yeah. You take your hit, you try again. And then all of a sudden you'll get good guys. And then all of a sudden you build a good crew. It takes a couple of years. Yeah. But once you got a crew, and they flow, like even now, I can not be on my sites for a week and they're fine. They're rolling. Yeah. They're going, right? but you pay them well. Like I try to pay my guys very well. I try to take care of them. Like I just brought them out to speeders the other day. Like you just take care of them, they're going to take care of you, right? Like it's the same as investors, like private money. Like it's all
for sure.
And it had to be a lot more challenging at the start when you weren't doing as much, because the people don't want your business as much. No. Now that you're doing multiple at a time, they're like, okay, I got to keep you happy so that you keep them on board.
Yeah.
Oh, exactly. It goes both ways.
Yeah, it goes both ways. You know, like I make sure I don't hold their money for 30 days or anything like that. Like just like you guys did a good job here. Here's your check.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And then it's a very relationship business. Like you can sit there and.
Very true.
So word of mouth. So was that word of mouth through other real estate investors or just like contractors?
Usually other contractors.
Other contractors.
Other contractors that are working on other jobs. They got this great plumber, all this great, like, So, it worked well. That's kind of how, and like I said, and then from there it's trial and error.
Yeah. And do you have any questions that you ask in order to vet? Because I've had, just contractors in the past that it's tough to stay on time, on budget. How do you have any tips for managing them, or when you are first about to hire them, any tips for just vetting contractors in general that you haven't worked with before in the past?
Essentially, I just get on site and I'll take a feel. Just take a feel how they react, how much knowledge they know, because by this point I know quite a bit too. So I can tell how much they know. And if they come and try to BS me or like, well, you're going to need this, this, and this. And I'm like, in the back of my head, I'm like, no, I don't. Right? Or like if they come in, they're like, oh, we could probably do this. This might save you some money. We could try this. You're going to have to do this one though. And I know it's like one of those expensive. I'm like, yeah, okay. Like if they can, it's really just feeling the guy out. Yeah. It's only really, really the best way to do it. And then give a guy a shot and see how it goes. Right? Like it
helps that you have the trades background too.
Well,
so then
it does.
Yeah.
It was just a lot of trial and error though. Like it's just trial and error, just keep on trying. Like it's not a perfect world. You know, you do lose sometimes, but as long as you win far more, like take your bumps and keep going. Like that's where a lot of guys stop.
Exactly.
And then another big part of these flips would be the finance side. Yeah. So obviously we've done a lot together, but before Calvert, how are you financing these projects?
It was all private investment.
Was it?
Yeah, it was all private investment. Essentially, how I did that was, so it started with friends and family. I did that, but often what I would do is try to find people that are, retired, and how I would convince them to come and invest with me is come work on my site. Like, come see what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Be there the whole time. See what your money is doing. Like, come build a fence. I'll pay you $35 an hour and you invest. You can watch how my sites run. And slowly I built trust that way. And like I said, then they would go and talk to somebody.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how I got that going. It worked out really well. I don't know if I meant to do that, but it's kind of how I'm like, well, come do some stuff, like you can drywall. Okay, let's see. Come drywall.
Just do it.
Just come.
We'll do that for some of our shareholders. Hey, come underwrite with us for a day. Come see what we do on a day to day.
So that ended up working pretty well, and then from there it just grew.
Yeah,
it just grew, and just
nice. And how did you figure out what interest? Like, did you say, "Hey, I'll pay you 10%"? Like, how did you come to terms with the term?
What I did is I went to the bank first to see what they would offer me. I went and I offered that minus paper fees to my investors.
Okay.
So I saved paper fees is what I did.
Makes sense. Makes sense. And it was like monthly payments, or were they balloon payments?
It was balloon payments to start. I've changed it now that interest rates have gone up a little bit, just to keep everyone. I have a little bit of a different deal with everyone.
Yeah.
Depends if I hold on to their money full term. I pay a little bit less. If I'm balloon paying it, then I will. Then I have a certain rate. So if I'm paying them monthly, I have another certain rate. It depends what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Right. If I'm like going to have it for 2 years, it all really depends what I'm doing, and I'll make that deal with that particular person. If they need monthly payments, not a problem.
Yeah.
Right. Or whatever.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And then just curious, like, what made you decide to want to build a real estate portfolio? Like, what's your why behind wanting to stick at this?
What's my why?
Yeah, I know it's really tough with contractors, as you were mentioning, finding people, losing money on the first deal that is a sizable
my
amount
why
of
at the end of the day is I want my freedom. Essentially, like my plan, like my wife's plan is to literally move to Italy. That's what we want to do. And how do we do that?
Nice.
How do you do that? Right?
Yeah.
You get cash flow. So how do you get cash flow? Okay, I can be a stock trader, or I can look into real estate. I thought real estate was a good hub. Right. So I looked into that. I had a good background for it. And really, I just want the time. I want the time to go and culture my kids. Like, we homeschool. So, like, we can bring them for
fun fact.
Yeah. So I got 3 kids. We all homeschool them all. And we just want to culture them, get them out into the world and travel. And, you know, I obviously still want to do real estate because I love it. I love what I do.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. I love it. But, like, I want to be able to do it from a distance. I want to leave for a month, call my guys, you know, how's that deal going? And, somebody called me, I want to buy a deal. I got to fly back for a week. Okay. Yeah. Right. That's the ultimate goals.
For sure. And why Italy?
Why Italy?
Yeah.
I like Europe. The wife is part Italian, so she's getting her citizenship.
Okay. Nice.
So she's working on that right now. So, I think just culture.
Yeah.
And it's warmer.
Quite a bit. Well, I'm off to Italy in a few weeks. I'm super pumped. So I don't blame you. We're fans.
We hit up Europe. Well, we hit it up in October last year. We didn't do Italy, but
yeah, pretty nice.
Yeah.
It's expensive.
Yeah, it is. Right. Yeah. We got to buy those dollar homes down there. Got to figure that one out.
Yeah, totally. So how many doors are you up to now then?
I got 14 doors right now.
14 doors. All cash flowing, obviously.
All cash flowing, yeah. So, which is good. Yeah. 14 doors. And then flip-wise, we're doing 8 to 12 a year-ish.
Yeah. And all those doors, they started out as kind of crappy, not as nice properties, and you renovated them and then obviously refinanced them.
Yeah.
And we've been a part of it for, I think, the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And I think we've completed about 7 together. And you have 2 more on the go right now. So what's been the learnings from those 7 that we've kind of done?
Oh, that's been the learnings.
I mean, I know I've got to visit one or a couple of them. The one was very interesting. It was what was it? 2 fourplexes?
It was 2 fourplexes.
2 fourplexes side by side, and I go in the property and
what area?
Southview.
Force.
Okay, so not a good part for those.
Right on. Yeah, they're
not the best part of Calgary.
Not the best part of Calgary. Let's just put it that way. Right?
So I go in there and like it's just pitch black because there's no lights, there's no nothing. Everything's been torn apart. There's a hole in the wall between the 2 units, and I think people were living there.
Oh yeah.
And they put holes in the walls that, and they were getting the copper out of there and everything. They were just taking everything out.
They were just taking anything that had any value out of there. Yeah.
And,
I think they had been abandoned for 3 years when we got them.
Wow.
I'm pretty sure.
So people were probably in and out of there for 3 years.
Oh yeah.
And so how'd you source that deal? Well, how did that one go?
So that one was a fun one. Essentially, this is a deal that came off market through wholesalers.
Okay.
Yeah.
It was it got put out to about 2,000 people. 2,000 people said no to these things. I said no to them twice myself. But then, you know, these boys are getting persistent. They're like, Shaun, you know, I bought one deal off them. I bought another one that I flipped out. And then he comes and he walks up to my truck. He's like, Shaun, do you want to look at these again? I'm like, gosh, right? I'm like, yeah, okay. I'll take a look at it again and see if I can figure it out. So, yeah, I went and ran my numbers and all of this and going through everything. And I'm like, okay, yeah, fine. I'll bite. I'll try it. You know, like my thing with this is I'm okay losing my time. I just don't want to lose money.
Yeah.
That's usually that's my risk tolerance when it comes to doing flips. I'm like, I'm young yet. I still have a lot of life in me. As long as I don't lose money.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, screw it. Let's try it.
Yeah.
Right. So I started calling everyone. I called you guys. I called my private investors. I called everyone. Everyone's like, Shaun. They're like, this isn't a good deal, dude. You're going to make like $3,000. That's like what my numbers are. I'm like, you know, I'm like sitting there. I'm like, okay, I've already committed, whatever. We buy them. You guys were great. Let us do it. Right. You're like, let's give me some trust on this one.
Well, that's certainly where we come in, and we're a lot different than other lenders where we see a property that has holes and everything. Like there was a lot. We probably shouldn't even talk about it. It was pretty gross, but like we see that, and structurally it's great.
Yeah.
Everything, like all the parts are there, but inside it needed a ton of work, needed to be gutted, needed everything. So the opportunity was there, and we're happy to help you out with that.
Yeah. Oh, and I appreciate that. Like I said, you guys gave me some faith, which I really appreciated, because I was like, this is
the numbers worked. So
right, the numbers worked, and it was there.
And the original plan was to flip it or to BRRR it?
Well, I wasn't sure. I had a lot of options to either. Was like, that's where I'm like, hey, I can go at it. My wife's a realtor too, so worst come to worst, we flip these things out. She takes a small commission. Worst come to worst, right? Or you BRRR them, you flip them. Like, I was just going to start going at them, see how it went. It was one of those you just have to try. Sometimes you just have to have a steel set. So I don't know if I say that. Anyways. But so we started going at these things. It was very interesting getting through permits. You know, everything was boarded up, right? So we found that a lot of the copper was broken out. We had to jackhammer floors because they cut it so low, like all kinds of stuff. So we went through the whole process. I think we ended up buying them for $1 million
for the two.
Right? So we bought them for $1 million. We ended up putting about $500K into them. They costed more than we thought they were going to.
Yeah, classic always
happens. You're just one of those things you're always going to run over. Just expect it. Just budget it in.
Especially with a budget that big, right?
Especially with a budget that in. Always have a good contingency.
Really good point.
Always have a good contingency, because it's hard. You don't know what you run into, even when you've walked these sites. Like, and you see it, you're like, oh, right? Like, anyway, so we put about 1.5 in. We then kind of realized that we could get commercial financing if we joined titles. We hadn't thought about that.
Interesting.
So we joined the titles, and we're able to get them appraised off of rental income instead of appraised value of the building. Essentially what that did was, and then we got them rented out. Rents were going up. We were able to get really good rents for them because we fully redid these things, and they ended up appraising out at $2.2 million.
Insane. Oh my God.
Yeah, we were in for 1.5.
It's a great story.
So,
and then the cash flows, and it's a good
cash flowing. They're good. They're nice and clean. Like,
and how long did the whole process take? Like buying permits, renos,
everything. By the time refinance is done, a year.
Okay.
A year. I think the whole process took us about 7 months to rent them out and get them rented out. And then the refinance took a little bit more here just because of commercial. Take a bit longer. But
and that $500,000, that was renos, carrying costs.
That was everything. That was renos, carrying costs. Like, that was pretty much everything across the board.
So, amazing.
Wild. Yeah, definitely.
So they were good.
So you got this one from a wholesaler.
Yeah.
Is that typically how you're finding the best deals? Because that's a huge challenge right now. I know we've talked about it too. It's the market right now is so quick, and there's not much inventory. So how do you source the best deals that you can purchase and flip or BRRR?
Essentially, wholesalers are tough right now. I can't get a good deal with a whole. I did actually get one. I haven't talked to you guys yet about. Well,
we'll talk about that after.
I got another one. Anyways, essentially, right now I've been buying MLS.
Okay.
So, which is kind of weird. Not many people think that, but it's amazing. Like, my wife being a realtor, we can get an offer out in 15 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
It's nothing to us. Like, I don't care if they say no. It's nothing to me too, but I can jump on it, right? It can be like Stace, like she just sets me up an email feed, like 650K and under, everything in Calgary.
Yeah,
it pops up.
So there's no particular area you're looking at. It doesn't matter because it's just whatever you find is a good deal. Numbers have
as long as the numbers work, right? Like, I avoid infill communities, obviously. I won't do anything in an infill community, but there's a lot of 70s, 80s, even some of the 90s communities now are starting to come up too. You can just find that deal, and you're like, oh, look, this one popped up. I'm like, Stace, quickly go run your comps for me and see. And, she can take 20 minutes, and she knows her numbers pretty well, too. She'll be like, yeah, Shaun, I think. I'm like, hey, let me quickly, and I'll go through the pictures really quick again and be like, hey, I know I can do, I've done enough of these things now. I know what I can do them for. It's going to cost me 120. Okay, it's 130. Oh, I need to add a garage. It's 150. Like, I've got them down pretty good now.
For sure.
And then I do that. Put a good contingency in, make an offer. And if it's low, and then, last month, I'm pretty sure I put in about 30 or 40 offers. Not gonna lie.
Are you writing conditions on these, or what does that look like?
I do sight on scene.
Yeah.
I just sight on scene, no condition.
Yeah. And obviously you're comfortable with that because you have the expertise, you know what to look for.
Yeah, like I wouldn't recommend doing that for somebody that hasn't done a lot, but for somebody like generally MLS is pretty safe. I'm more concerned about like if I find a property that's somebody's done their own rentals in, I won't buy it on sight unseen.
I agree with that. Yeah,
I will not buy it. Then I have to go see it. But if it's just dated, like if it's just a dated house, it looks clean. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
you can usually tell that from the pictures.
Yeah, I think the biggest problems that we've seen people run into is foundation one.
Yeah.
And anything like mechanical wise having an issue. Like those are the big ticket items.
Yeah.
So as long as those aren't there, typically it can be a good rental. It's
not too bad.
But like the foundation issue can be a massive one. So how do you
do I mitigate that? I just know what I can do it for. I ran excavator for 20 years.
Yeah, so you've got that yourself. But for everyone else who doesn't have that,
I wouldn't recommend that. Right? I wouldn't recommend that. But for me, like if I have a foundation problem, it's easy. I can go and like literally rent a machine. I will dig it up. I'll have my engineer come in there, be like, yeah, here's your leak. Fix this right there. I'll weeping tile the whole thing. Call it a day, and it costs me $5,000.
Perfect. That's great.
Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know
it's great to hear from a lender perspective, just knowing that hey, we got a guy that can do it.
Yeah, it's the same as like a roof line. If I have a saggy roof, like I got framers that we can easily like. Okay, I'm re-shingling this thing anyway. I got a couple of bad trusses in there. I've done it before. Yeah. Like just go and throw a couple of good trusses in there. Get my engineer in there. I got a great guy who will come out, like very inexpensive, very smart. He'll just come and he'll look at his stuff, give me his stamp, and like me and my full-time guys can get it done. I have a full-time electrician, so I don't have to run into that either. Like,
so how many full-time guys do you have?
Right? I have 5. So I have a full-time finisher. I have a full-time electrician / HVAC. So he's a third year in both.
Yeah.
Right. So then I got a full-time drywaller. I got a second full-time finisher now, and then I have essentially a part-time drywaller.
Okay.
He does other stuff, but like they're all happy to do other stuff too. So they're like,
okay, so they're doing other stuff as well.
They do other stuff, which is the beauty of it. Like I pay them very well. They are good with their trade, but when I'm a little bit slow, they're fine building a fence. They're fine doing some demo. They're fine. You know, we're gonna go landscape a yard this afternoon, boys. Like we're gonna bring the barbecue out. We're gonna make some steaks.
There you go.
We're gonna landscape, right? So that's been part of the ticket too. Is having.
Yeah, but you want to keep them busy, obviously.
Yeah, oh yeah, so. Obviously, and that's one of my like, which will bring me to some of the mistakes I've made is panic buying.
Okay.
And the panic buy comes from trying to keep guys busy. That's one of the things my biggest things I've had to learn. Don't panic buy, because that's always when I've lost money. Because you're always trying to keep them busy. I've come to the conclusion, I will rather pay my guys. Like now I keep them busy. Like they're good, but like before, like I would pay them for 3 weeks so that they wouldn't go somewhere else if I didn't have a house.
Yeah.
Right. So it was little things like that. It's harder. It's always it depends. Like you got to grow the right people and whatever,
for sure.
But
so the flipping mistakes, you'd say panic buying is one.
Panic buying is one of my biggest ones. Is overpaying.
And that's mostly just like, hey, this is my full-time gig now. I gotta find a property and I gotta keep my guys busy.
Yeah.
Any other things you can pass along that people should look out for?
Panic buy for sure. Other stuff to look out. It's hard to say. You run into so many different things on sites. I think it's just experience and just making sure your numbers are right.
Buying right.
Buy right. Buy right. That's the biggest you could.
Yeah. And neighborhood doesn't matter.
There's a market for every neighborhood, essentially, right? And always be shifting with your market. Like 2 years ago, all I was doing was suiting stuff for renters because investors were coming in. Yeah. So I was buying upstairs. I was suiting basements. Investors were buying these things. They're snagging. But now the market's so hot, you can't get that low end stuff. So now what's the problem? We've got housing shortage, but we also have a lot of people coming in from Ontario and Toronto. So I've kind of started hitting up bigger, more expensive stuff, right? Yeah. So you just have to shift with your market, I find, and just be willing to shift. Like I'm also starting an infill here in a couple of weeks for a guy because we're on shortage, right?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I'll take on another one of these now.
There you go.
So it's just shift. Just keep on shifting because your market all of a sudden is going to drop, right? What are you going to do then? I'm like, be buying nothing but rentals. So, yeah.
And when you're putting in all these offers, do you have like a specific price decrease that you're looking for? Like 10% below of as is market value? Do you have any like rules of thumb for putting in offers?
Not really. Like I said, it mostly just comes down to what are my carrying costs going to be? What are my realtor costs going to be? What are my rentals going to be? What my margin that I want to make off this thing is going to be? Yeah. And sometimes I can offer over. So sometimes I can go 20,000 over because they've just listed it that low, right?
Yeah. And how do you analyze this? Like, do you use our flip analyzer or do you use something?
My own.
Something else?
Yeah. Essentially, by this point, I almost have it in my head.
Yeah, right.
Honestly, I just do it so much, and I know my community so well. Like, I literally watch MLS like daily, hourly. Like, I'm like, Forest Lawn is doing this. Yeah. Okay, Dalhousie's doing this right now. I'm like, hey, like, you just feed yourself information. Yeah. It's essentially is how it goes, and then you can make a pretty quick decision if you need to, right? So,
So how many do you have on the go right now?
I have, 3 on the go, and then I picked up another one here that I'll get in June.
Okay.
So
from MLS?
Yeah. No, that one was actually off market.
Oh, there
Finally got one off market.
Nice.
I was like, I was complaining to all the boys. I'm like, I need to get a better deal here. Yeah. I'm like, I know you're cashing out because the market's so good, but
but it's got to be even hard for them to find good deals right now.
It is.
Right. There's just no one selling.
Yeah. And even like I have some off-market stuff that comes my way too. Like I had somebody in, where was I? Millerize. Stuff's best, fully done, redone, $650K. Like that's the best you're gonna get out of it. 2-story, 1,850 square.
Yeah.
I go to them. The place is run down. Needs $200,000 worth of work, and they're like, "We can get 7." I'm like, good luck. I'm like, oh, it's nice chatting with you guys. Let's meet you. Like, here's my number. Give me a call if you ever reconsider. Like,
yeah. Things are moving fast on MLS, but if you're not priced right, then they're not.
Yeah,
they'll sit there. Like a lot of people have this mindset now. Oh, the market's going up like crazy. So, like my property was worth this, but now I'm going to just list it for this because the market's wild and someone's going to pay me $200,000 over what it's currently worth.
They're not.
They're
not going to get it.
No.
That actually worries me for a lot of new time flippers right now. I'm like, don't overbuy right now.
Yeah.
Like, do not, because I can make all this money. It's going to be worth this. Well, no, it might not though. It's still only worth this.
Yeah, that's something that we analyze a lot internally because, as you know, our values are based on past comps and recent comps. Like we want comparables that are being pulled within the last 3 months. Typically, that's what we want.
Yeah.
But a lot of people will come to us and say, "Oh, but the market is trending this way. It's trending up. So like I'm going to be speculative and say mine is going to be worth this, even though the comps are saying this."
Yeah.
And we don't want people doing that. Like that happened a lot, I think, in Ontario.
Yeah.
Where property values were just shooting up for 10 years straight. And so people were like, oh, it's only going up.
Yeah.
But you got to be realistic. You got to, if you buy right, like you said, if you buy right, you should be able to make a profit.
Yeah.
And you got to be quick. You got to have your numbers right. But a lot of, a little too much optimism right now, even though it's great. Our market's doing awesome, but
that's good. Don't speculate buy though.
No.
Yeah.
Don't speculate buy. Like I said, like figure out your risk tolerance. Like mine being, I'm okay with losing my time, not my money.
Yeah.
Right. So like that's kind of,
it's okay to be on the sidelines if the right deal
it's
isn't
okay.
there.
And that's why like don't panic buy. Like when it's like wait, it will come. Like they'll come out of nowhere. They often come out of absolutely nowhere. You'll be sitting there stressing and
boom,
all of a sudden, boom, you'll have 3 houses and you're like, oh gosh, which ones do I take? Right? And then all of a sudden you'll get a dry spell for 3 months. You're like, ah, crap, right? Like
all or nothing. Got it. There's no steady. It's all ebbs and flows up and down.
It's all ebbs and flows.
So what's next for Shaun before Italy?
Oh, I still got a few years behind me. I still got to put about 5 years in, get a bunch of more rentals behind me, cash flow, all that good.
Yeah, we got to do a bunch more of deals together.
There's a lot more. It ain't stopping yet. No, it's going well. I'm starting to look a lot more into new builds right now.
Okay.
So I'm looking into the new 8plexes because, like I said, our city's a little short on rentals. Trying to buy in the low market rental where the numbers actually work is very hard. So now I'm looking a lot into the bigger stuff.
Like you doing builds? Or like buying a rundown property and renovating? Or are you going to do a full ground up?
No, ground up.
Okay.
Like I said, I start one here in a couple of weeks. It's for another guy, but he's
Nice.
get that going. I'm pricing out an 8 right now, getting it all designed, and if I like the numbers, I'm just going to buy a piece of land and go at her.
There you go.
So I've done it before, just haven't done it in a few years, but it's not. Honestly, sometimes they're almost easier. You don't have to be around as much because you have a lot of good trades. A lot of it's just making sure you're lined up and timed properly and the prices are right. It's watching your numbers. It's always watching your numbers.
Yeah.
It's so.
Yeah. The time cycle of those though is a lot.
It's a year and a half, right?
Yeah.
Like from those big guys, like a duplex I can get done. I can build in 7 months, but you're 3 months permits, right? So you're a 1 year process. The big guys, you're about a year and a half ish. So that's what I'm kind of looking at. I'm going to continue to flip. If I find some low end deals that are good for rentals, by all means, I'll be taking those on too. But
nice.
That's where she's at for now.
Perfect. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Any other kind of final words? Any insights you want to share? Just anything that we didn't touch on that you think would be valuable?
I don't know. There's a million little things I'm sure I'm missing, but
all good. Yeah, more than happy to touch on it at a later time as well too. Where should people, if they're interested in following you, getting in contact with you?
Waveline Properties is my company. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, all that kind of good stuff. Talk to you guys, be like, who's that Shaun guy?
They can always reach out to us and we'll connect you.
Yeah, that's kind of, just find me out there, and I'm always willing to sit down, have a chat, and network. It goes, so. That's
good to know, because a lot of our people will ask, hey, do you know any good real estate investors who want to chat and help me out on my journey? So
for sure. We have a girl right now that managed to contact us, and she was about to pay $15,000 for a boot camp. I'm like, don't do that. I'll come and I'll sit and buy me a coffee. I will sit you down, take that $15,000, and we'll figure out how to put it into a house.
Yeah, exactly.
So I'm always happy to do that for people. I wish I would have had more of it when I was younger. So
definitely.
Perfect. Well, really appreciate your time, and looking forward to chatting about this deal after this pod.
Thanks, Shaun.
All right.
Cheers.
That wraps up another episode of the Real Estate and Wealth Podcast. Be sure to hit that like button, share with fellow real estate enthusiasts, and subscribe to stay in the loop on all upcoming episodes. Get in touch with the team at Calvert Home Mortgage Investment Corporation by calling them at 1-888-752-4642 or email admin@chmic.ca. The opinions expressed in each episode belong to the individuals featured and do not represent the views of Calvert Home Mortgage. While we provide valuable insights, consulting with qualified professionals ensures that your unique financial circumstances are carefully considered, aligning your investments with your long-term objectives. Calvert Home Mortgage Investment Corporation is not a financial advisor, and we cannot advise you on making investments. There are risks to investing in real estate and the potential that you can lose all of your investment.